It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be time consuming.
That's today's guest, music editor, clinician, and educator Mary Cogswell, reminding us to keep it simple. Welcome to Music Ed Insights. I'm leadership trainer and former band director Alan Fire, here with composer and co-college music education program head Steve Shanley.
Each episode, Alan and I talk with national thought leaders in music education with practical insights for K-12 music educators.
Steve, tell us about our guest.
Following a 33-year teaching career, Mary Cogswell continues to serve the music education profession as an active guest conductor, clinician, mentor, and music co-editor. Mary is co-editor of the Beginning Band Adaptable series, published by Murphy Music Press, which emphasizes flex arrangements designed around a rubric specifically tailored for beginning bands. She is a passionate advocate for quality music education and has delivered numerous presentations focused on recruitment strategies and effective instruction for beginning band students. Find Mary's full bio, show notes, and resources at musicedinsights.com. Alan, what was the takeaway you had from this episode?
Yeah, so back to that cold open teaser about simple ideas. She starts with transcribing hot cross buns and moves toward composition. So many fun pointers and activities. What about you, Steve?
Well, we initially thought this would be a beginning band-focused episode, and the first part is, but I encourage all non-beginning band teachers to skip to about 12 minutes and 45 seconds, which could vary a bit depending on the ads they drop in this episode, but somewhere near there we start a discussion about creativity in the ensemble setting that can apply to any music teacher.
Yes, true, and her ideas after that are compelling for all areas. Give it a listen. Let's get to Mary Cogswell.
Mary Cogswell, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for the invitation today.
We've asked you to join us today for a very special episode intended for our listeners who teach beginning band. As we've discussed many times on this show, it can be very challenging to find repertoire for our beginners, especially if we are trying to program music by composers from diverse backgrounds. So first, I'd like your take. Why exactly do you think this is sometimes a difficult task?
I believe just it's societal. For hundreds of years, obviously, mostly composers have been white males, and even in the last 50 years, basically the same. I think it has started to really expand, obviously, to have much more representation with underrepresented composers. And just, I'd say in the last maybe 5 to 8 years, more so down into that really young band, developing band level. So yeah, I think it's just societal, and I don't believe anybody was discriminating, or I just think that's just how it was. And there weren't any modeling, there weren't any models for people of color or females to do that. So I think we've moved into a great new era with lots of opportunities.
I agree. I also just anecdotally have noticed that our bands themselves have become more diverse in the last 20 or 25 years. And when we're looking at the people who are writing music, especially for those beginners, I mean, let's face it, David Maslanka probably never woke up one morning and was inspired to write a piece using only the first 5 or 6 notes of the B-flat scale. And so we just didn't have that population of diverse peoples who went through school band programs, got music education degrees.
Right.
And so one thing I have really tried to encourage people who say this is important to them, I say, get them in your band, because that's the training ground, and that's going to produce the people who are going to write, especially for those beginner levels.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you.
So what general suggestions do you have for band directors who are trying to broaden their programming choices?
I believe there are several options. One, for a perfect example, are podcasts such as this one. There are a number of terrific podcasts right now with lots of people being interviewed. You can gather lots of information from composers, from publishers, from different podcasts. There are several diverse repertoire databases that you can also draw upon. There's the Institute of Composer Diversity. The one that I really like is the And We Were Heard. It's a great project, first of all. They pair up composers with compositions, underrepresented composers, and they pair them up with an ensemble in the United States that's willing to perform and record their pieces. But along with that, they have a great database. It's a spreadsheet. They have the tabs, you have the people with color tab, you have female. I mean, they have it broken down, and they have it broken down by grade level also, because sometimes that's a little bit trickier to find, but it's a great resource.
Yeah, I just pulled it up and I am seeing, wow, 65 pieces that are grade half alone. Yeah, that's wonderful.
It's a great resource.
So, you've also been serving as the co editor for Murphy Music's Beginning Band Adaptable series, which will also certainly help our listeners find some diverse programming options. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
The project started during COVID. I was on a committee with Robert Ambrose, who is my co-editor. He's the director of bands at Georgia State. And there was much discussion about pieces becoming flex, pieces in existence for more mature bands. And I, being a beginning band director, was sitting there thinking, wait, but what about us down here? Because given that situation, I didn't know what I was going to have in my band. So what if I had like a flute, four tubas, and a mallet player? So then where am I left? And so I think my frustration became quite evident. And so we hooked up to Robert and I hooked up together, and Robert knew Sean Murphy from Murphy Music Press, and Sean agreed to house this, and that's where it started. And the point of it was we want unique tunes, we want shorter 0.5 for many reasons, but if you have very limited time, I can't play a whole 60 measure, right? Beginning band piece. I need something that's shorter than that and that would just be different. I mean, we know like you said, there are only some things you can do with 5 or 6 notes, but I knew there were possibilities out there that could be different, that would engage possibly different students, maybe that didn't like the mainstream. So these are 25 to 40-ish measures each. Really, you could insert them, obviously, depending on your situation, contact time. You could insert them early on, give the students a feeling of success. The other thing that's really important is that they're flex pieces. So was it not only good for during the pandemic, obviously, but there are lots of really small and or unbalanced bands everywhere that this could be useful for. And so that was really what we were going for. And that one of our goals was we want to just bring in composers that are non-mainstream, that maybe would just attract a different pool of consumer.
I feel like the flex band, especially as we get with older ensembles, can kind of be sort of pejorative almost, like we're making it too easy or we're missing out. And that is not to discount the beauty of orchestration or opportunities for players or sections to perform on their own. But if we made a list of all of the things that we want our students to learn and experience in band, if we're talking about articulation or pitch accuracy or tone quality or shaping a phrase or dynamic, there are so many things that we can do that don't involve, but also the flutes need to play by themselves for 8 measures. And then when we talk about student attention span and behavior management and things like that, keeping them all on task and having them all do the same thing at the same time, this is not only important for our fifth and sixth graders, but I'm using flex jazz band arrangements with my group at Co-College, even though they could totally handle playing on their own, but I'm thinking, why not work on this exact same concept with everybody in the room at the same time? And I just hope more and more people will start to be accepting of how much easier it's going to make their lives.
Absolutely. And especially if it's full flex, where you could have, if it's a 3 part, you could have 3 flute players, you could make it into a trio, and you could have everyone learn each of those parts equally. I think that it's just a great teaching tool.
So I have a couple of questions for you that I will find interesting. Hopefully, Alan and some of the listeners do as well. the fact that you are so involved as an editor in this process, someone with over 30 years of experience actually in the trenches working with those students, is what excites me the most because what I have noticed, and this happened a lot during the pandemic and especially post George Floyd when people were wanting to be better about programming, is we would have wonderful composers writing material for our younger bands, and they genuinely thought what they were writing was accessible. Maybe they thought, well, we'll just put a bunch of whole notes tied together and that'll make it easy. And of course, you and I know that's the last thing we want fifth and sixth graders doing. So we had music that was either labeled as easy because the composer maybe didn't really know, or I think in the case of some publishers, and this has kind of made me mad, they label it as grade half or very beginning band easy because they know they're going to sell more copies of it. And so, can you tell me a little bit about maybe an example? You don't even need to use a name, but where you receive something and you think this has so much potential, but this, and this are going to make it too difficult. So, can we clean that up a little bit?
Yes, I completely agree with you. And that was one of the most interesting things about doing this with the music industry. I learned a lot about the publishing industry, and I've learned a lot about composing and editing. Wow. So yes, there were a few pieces that were submitted that didn't quite fit well. And in that case, we said, well, yep, try these different things, see if you can adapt to fit into, because we had very, very specific. Our rubric was really, really specific, and see if you can fit what you're doing into that rubric. And if they couldn't, we could say, well, maybe this is a great piece, maybe not for this series, but it's still a great piece, and we can explore another option. So, but yeah, there were definitely those times where it's like, and I could say, yeah, my kids can play this. John Murphy is really, I mean, one of his philosophies is really to give all composers, a chance. I mean, he's really gunning for that person that's less known.
And this to me is a great compromise because I think right now all composers have a chance in that they can make a website and start selling their stuff. But what we have with your series and you in particular is a little bit of quality control that, okay, maybe taste wise, this isn't up your alley, but I can promise you that if your students have been playing their instruments for about 6 weeks, they're probably from a technical standpoint going to be able to handle this. And I think that's
Exactly.
just huge and makes everybody's lives so much easier.
Absolutely.
So, as you and I were emailing back and forth about the Beginning Band Adaptable series, I learned that you are also an expert on incorporating that pesky creating standard into our beginning band classes. And I say pesky not because I think it's not important. In fact, quite the opposite. I think it is so important, but many people feel overwhelmed trying to address it. I think either we're worried it will take away from preparing for the concert, or we feel we aren't qualified to teach composition lessons because we aren't composers ourselves. And so, how are we going to teach a sixth grader to do it? So, what suggestions do you have for us?
Well, I don't know that I'm an expert, but I have found some things over the years that have been successful. And the first thing I always say is it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be time consuming. In my situation, I had precious little contact time with my students, but I knew that it was important to get that inserted somehow into my curriculum because some kids are in band because, let's face it, my mom wants me to be in band. But what if you give them that opportunity, that little bit of creativity to innovate something on their own? Maybe that's the thing that hooks them. So what I found is, start off really easy, and I'll preface it with this: you can't with beginners. You still have to make sure you're covering the basics. They know how to put the instrument together correctly. They know how to hold it correctly, posture, all of those things. That's foremost, the most important thing. But once they know that, hot cross buns, right? Okay, I know all of us are like, oh, I don't really want to hear that again.
No,
But
no, it's a banger. It's a banger. It's a classic. It
it
evokes
is
it evokes if it's not on a recorder, it's already like a fonder kind of
100%.
connotation there. Yeah.
Right. So one of the first things that I've inserted, so on a regular 8 by 10 sheet of paper, you have it printed out, you have hot cross buns for each instrument. Underneath that, you have the kids just copy it. If you've ever seen a beginner try to write out notation, it's pretty ugly. So here's the example. Have them copy it. That could be one day right there, put it away. That's it. The next day on the bottom, also really big staff. Okay, so now you change just some of the notes or rests, as long as you still can play it. But so that's just that the beginning stage of being creative, and that could take a few minutes. So nothing elaborate. You can have them put it back in their folder, bring it out the next time. There are lots of things. If you have technology, I would use Chrome Music Cast. It has so many creative opportunities in it. I use Groove Pizza. The kids can select the beats. I insert conducting in there. So we have some leadership skills going on also. And then the Google snippet, which is just in Chrome, and they can start doodling and making up their own. And it can be 2 or 3 measures. You can use Rhythm Randomizer, also free. Here's a rhythm. Partner up with somebody and create a melody. You can easily insert these things. It can take 2 or 3 minutes. And then one of the things I had that was most successful, so you can take any of those things I just mentioned, and we did master musicians. And it's an opportunity for the kids to play for their peers, to perform in front of their peers with the audience, the rest of the band. You can go over concert etiquette, but it gives those kids the opportunity to, if they created something, they can perform it. If it doesn't go well, then you can have the discussion on what could we do differently. It's a great learning tool, and the kids just know that it's a safe place for them to play for their peers. Even if it doesn't go well, we're going to support each other, and it's a positive experience. So there are lots of creativity opportunities that you can just insert very briefly, because I get it. We have the next performance coming up. I have to focus on that, and I understand that, and I did that for a very long time, and I get it.
Okay, so I know that if you are up for it, I am definitely going to recommend to some folks around here in Iowa that they reach out to you and see if you could serve as an honor band conductor. Is that the type of thing you are still doing? What are you up to these days with your retirement?
Yes, I have done some honor band conducting. I do some presenting. And one of the newest things is that I am the chair of the Arts Ed Alliance South Dakota. And it's underneath Arts South Dakota, which is a nonprofit that does arts advocacy. And so we're adding in the ed part. And we actually had Leon Kaner from Iowa that came over and helped us get started. We had our first in-person meeting just this summer. And so we are at the ground level of that, but it's really exciting work. And like he says, we're all in our silos. We have the visual art, we have band, choir, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a great way for all of us to come together for a unified voice, um, get some mentoring going more so in our state, and just become more of a unified voice for the arts. I think that's really important. It's important all the time. I think it's even more important now. And being able to connect the arts, but then also hopefully being able to connect the arts to other academic disciplines also. We want to get that all of this going, especially for those younger kids. I mean, the kids right now, right? They're our next generation of people that are going to be our school board members and city council and policymakers. And so I think just having that voice, I think, is just so important, and important for that, especially the younger generation. We have to know that they're seeing the benefits of what the arts can do for us.
On behalf of music teachers and parents and community members everywhere, thank you for having a very active retirement where you are still very involved and helping out the cause. And thank you for joining us today. Can you stick around for some lightning round questions?
Of course, I would be happy to.
Okay, I see that you are living kind of near Sioux Falls, and that has been one of my favorite places to visit. Next time I'm there, what restaurant should I check out?
I would highly recommend the Trio Jazz Club. It's about a year old. It was specifically built acoustically for this reason, and it's very intimate. I think 50 capacity, has great food. Local owners, has live music 5 days a week. It's a great venue. I encourage you to check it out.
How about a piece of music, a composer, or a performer you wish more people knew about?
Well, I'm going to go back to the earlier conversation and I'm going to go with publisher. And I just encourage people, and not just Murphy Music Press. There are other publishers, but be intentional and go and listen to music you would not ordinarily listen to. There's so much out there that's awesome right now. So, and especially for young bands, some really great composers are doing some really great things. So I would just go to Murphy Music Press and start exploring.
How about a favorite film or TV series you've enjoyed recently?
Probably one of my favorites is Somebody Somewhere. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a great, it's set in Kansas and it's some misfits, but how they all work together and they're all friends. And it's just a great story.
How about the most memorable live music performance you've attended?
Um, well, there's memorable in that, probably not the best, but memorable, that kind of jump started me to where I'm at today. When I was getting ready to go into high school, a friend invited me to the high school indoor marching band concert that I was going to be going to. And I was kind of waffling a little bit about being in band, but I went to that and I was like, sign me up. And so that's kind of what really hooked me into just band in general. So that's probably the most memorable, kind of life altering. But otherwise, just recently we were in New York City and went to a couple shows at Dizzy's, live at Jazz at Lincoln Center, which was phenomenal, even just for the venue. Awesome.
So, our marching band director listeners right now who are thinking, oh, should I really add one more thing? Do we need to do this big K-12, whatever? Like, it works. There are
It
people who
does.
sign up. Yes.
I believe she used the phrase life changing.
Yeah.
It was actually.
And finally, a book recommendation for our listeners, please.
Well, one of the most recent books that I read is the Mr. Thank You Project by John Israel. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's this guy that decided he was going to write 5 thank you notes every day to someone for a year. Okay, so that's, and he even says, don't even try to do that because but just the message there that a lot of a lot of people we take for granted, or services that we take for granted. And to like just take just an extra minute to thank those people, or thank people you wouldn't typically thank for the things that they're doing that help everything be better.
Mary Cogswell, I want to echo something Dr. Shanley said. Thank you for continuing to serve. You're doing valuable work, important work that benefits students and their families, and definitely educators. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for being on the podcast today. It's been great.
Thanks for having me on today. It's been a great time.
Thanks for listening to Music Ed Insights.
We're supported by Group Dynamic, a leading provider of youth leadership workshops. Alan works with dozens of schools each year to help develop their leaders. Learn more at groupdynamicyouth.com.
Or you could email me at alan@groupdynamic.net. Also sponsored by the Co-College Music Education Program. They've got a website too.
Just click their link at our website or email me at shanley@coe.edu.
Also, The Normal Design, helping normal companies and people create memorable, meaningful, and professional designs and branding. More at thenormaldesign.com.
And Winterset Websites, website design and maintenance. wintersetwebsites.com.
Our Facebook page is Music Ed Insights.
Our website has program notes, links, and a one-page download of this episode's key takeaways. That's on musicedinsights.com.
You can expect a new episode most Mondays during the school year.
Get current.
Stay relevant.
Music Ed Insights.